what are you talking about, Step Ator? And help, I'm stuck in the cave.
Save me from the spider.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the spider web. Save me, Step Ator.
Welcome back to Nerd Legion. We continue with our 1980s fantasy film marathon with an infamous, cheesy,
beautiful,
Italian-made and directed classic.
Incredible.
Ator the Fighting Eagle that did raise to prominence through riff tracks and later MST3K, which is interesting.
Yeah. I reversed that order, though. It was... funny enough, it was the sequel to Ator the Fighting Eagle, which is called The Blade Master, a.k.a. Cave Dwellers, with its video release in the U.S. that was picked up in the third season of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and riffed by them. Then fast forward 15-ish years, maybe even more, and Riff Tracks finally goes back and does Ator the Fighting Eagle, the film that inspired it all. I had seen, both Cave Dwellers and this many times throughout my childhood because after that MST3K episode of the sequel, I just thought it was so. We'll get into why it's so great and why it's so much fun and all that. But the character of Ator is such a great sort of like comedy version of Conan the Barbarian in so many ways, and it's not really intended to be comedy, but I will say this is by far my favorite movie we watched in this series. This is the only one I'd already seen, but watching through it again this time and really kind of like focusing and writing notes, I enjoyed it more than I ever have. So I am so excited to talk about Ator the Fighting Eagle. It's one of the best. It's one of the best.
I like how this one is your favorite, though.
So far,
even though that we've actually seen good movies,
sure.
And this movie is unequivocally terrible.
Yes, but it is funny. It is funny, and it's epic, and it's so much. It's like people use saying like a movie is fun for like code that it's like but no, I mean like this is a movie you will have a lot of fun watching. Like if you're and I've always been a fan of like bad movies and things. It's always fun to see when like all this like effort and all stuff goes into something and it just turns out horrible, right? And you're like, what went wrong? And then when it's like horrible to a degree that you just laugh out loud at certain things, like it's just great. There's something about that that's always fascinated me, whether it's like music or movies or what have you. But this has that in spades, and Ator is at the center of it, and he's such a great character. He's primed for a remake. I think we need a hardcore, gritty, modern miniseries remake of Ator, in my opinion. But we can get in why all that is later, Where to start?
So
go ahead.
The thing about this film is I do recommend, like Doa, that you watch this movie if you like films that are so bad that they're good. If you don't find them funny, you will have a miserable time watching this, because the previous film we did in this series, Dragon Slayer, was legitimately a pretty good movie and had a lot of redeeming qualities. High production budget, excellent cinematography, clearly inspiring George R.R. Martin and the more gritty fantasy that we have today. Now, Ator is trash production, trash costumes, trash cinematography, giga trash lighting, and trash performances, trash writing, just everything is a steaming pile of garbage, but it is very, very humorous unintentionally as a result.
And it did inspire me.
And we'll talk.
It didn't inspire George R. R. Martin, but it inspired me. And if you're listening to this, you know that's more important, right?
So, Dragon Slayer, legit good movie, recommended, very good effects. This movie is the dark mirror of Dragon Slayer, where it, in every way that Dragon Slayer excelled, this movie is complete garbage, but it ends up being very funny as a result. And if you enjoyed this, guys, well, I have good news for you, because part of this series is not only going to be watching this movie, Ator, but as Doa mentioned, it will also be The Blade Master, which is the second movie.
And it's even worse.
It's
even worse, and the ending is even more ridiculous, if you can believe that. I'll just leave that teaser out there.
Now, this movie, the second movie also came out in 1982. So we don't have that long to wait for this
I thought it was
one.
83.
Or it came out in
close.
1984,
Yeah,
excuse
83,
me.
yeah. It did not take
and then
long.
there is a third movie in this series called Iron Warrior, which came out in 1987. So we have 3 of these Ator movies, the original and 2 sequels, to go through here on
Lucky
Nerd
us.
Legion, which we will eventually get to. And not only that, Doa, but if you liked Miles O'Keefe, the main actor,
I do.
We also have another Miles O'Keefe movie, not by the same director, not part of the Ator series, called Sword of the Valiant, in which he plays Sir Gawain in the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight tale, which I have not seen this movie, but I'm very familiar with Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, so I am not looking forward to that.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I will say, get ready for the best Miles O'Keefe haircut you have ever seen in that movie. I'll just leave that teaser out there too. I've been a big Miles O'Keefe fan for many years.
Well, I am a newly minted Miles O'Keefe hater, so we can discuss that. Let's talk about
Be nice to Miles.
Ator the Fighting Eagle. So this is part of some cheap Italian-made movies, even though this was also obviously made in English, but we'll talk about
sort of
how they did that and who is speaking what language. You can watch it entirely in English. You can watch it entirely for free on YouTube, and we'll go ahead and drop a link below. So it's an hour and a half. It's not a big time commitment. The entertainment is worth an hour and a half of your time. It was made on obviously no budget.
Well, and the thing is that there's a lot of very cheap looking things here and there, but then again, like the costuming is fairly elaborate. They didn't just go with like one fur jerkin, like everyone's wearing like 5 of them or something. It's like they just took the costume department for a much bigger movie and they just put it all on a smaller cast. And so you get some pretty detailed, layers of fur and stuff. And I will say this. The locations that they shot at, I love some of them in Italy. I love amphitheaters, so this movie really has a amphitheater they go back to a lot. Thank you, ancient Rome, for providing most of the sets in this movie.
They did a lot with the very tiny amount of resources that they had.
They were plucky,
but it still looks like trash somehow. Anyway, so this film follows. I will give you a summary.
No, wait. We just got to go through it scene by scene. We just have to go. Let's cover the general stuff, and then let's just go through the plot and kind of dive into everything we loved.
Okay, where would you like to start?
Let's start with the director. So let's talk about the general stuff first. So, director, the movie credits when you watch it, which you all should, and you all will, I'm sure. At the beginning, it says David Hills, which is one of the many pen names for a man who was born with a name Aristide Massasesi. I can't pronounce that at all, but he went by Joe D'Amato in a lot of things too. He apparently has like a ton of different pseudonyms, and mostly he made porn before this. That's a well-known thing. And the funny thing is, going into this, I feel like this is one of the most researched movies that we've done on my part, because I've researched this like years ago already, because I was just so fascinated by it. So it's fun to talk about it all again now. But yeah, this director did mostly pornography, and decided that, Conan the Barbarian is pretty popular these days. The kids love the barbarians. So I'm going to make my own barbarian movie. And he wrote and directed it. And we got Ator as a result, thank heavens.
And speaking of his hardcore pornography, he was active in the 70s through the 90s making porn, a lot of which was spoof porn or derivative of other works. And he was the proud director of Tarzan 10, Shame of Jane.
Oh, no. 10?
He made porn of Shakespearean dramas.
Wow.
Including one called Othello 2000. He made biblical porn, boy. Sodom and Gomorrah. He made mythological porn, Hercules, a sex adventure. And his last film was a porn that was released in 1999 called Showgirl, which is a porn version of the Verhoeven movie Showgirls.
Okay, so when you hit a little bit close to reality there, I don't know, but yeah, he sadly he did pass away from a massive heart attack in 1999. So rip David Joe Artistide. Either way, you left us with a great body of work, pun intended. And yeah, I mean, what?
But when you understand that he directed so much porn, the decisions about the way this movie was shot, because this movie is about 1 centimeter away from
really
being porn
is.
itself.
It really is.
It makes so much more sense. And honestly, this would have been a better movie if it was porn. I'm just going to put that out there.
I disagree, because I like their attempts at having a strong moral code when clearly they do not, deep down. But I love that they try, right? Where he really tries to make Ator a virtuous character, right? But you can tell he's really, it's really not. Underneath all of it, it's like, yeah, just have him dance around in a little bit of fur and black underwear. Yeah. I mean, you could tell there's like that attitude underneath it all, But I feel like, it's part cash in, but I feel like there's some real heart behind this too, where I think he really did believe Ator could become the next big thing. Maybe he just dreamed of eventually breaking out of the porn racket and doing epic fantasy. And he tried his best, by Spider God. He tried his best.
I think his real plan was probably to double dip in his career.
Perhaps.
So if Ator becomes very famous, then he can make the porn spoof of Ator later
that's so
on.
Smart.
Genius.
Yeah. You make the trendy popular thing, and then you make the porn parody. Wow, that's brilliant. Why didn't Peter Jackson capitalize on this? Man.
Yeah, he could have made Lord of the Cock Rings. God damn it!
I love that you had a title ready to go there. That's impressive. Kind of scary, but also impressive. Wow,
I'm witty. What
there
can
you
I
go.
say?
I mean, but yeah, this movie has everything. We talked a lot about Miles O'Keefe as Ator, but the main antagonist, Dakar, the Spider Priest, just went by Dakar in real life too. Because he was an Argentinian, he was born Peruvian, but he was an Argentinian professional wrestler for like a long time, and he just went by Dakar, and so they just called him that. It was as if Hulk Hogan was the bad guy in your fantasy film, and he just called himself Hulk Hogan, So I there's so many layers to this film that they've just got a professional wrestler as their Spider Priest, and he kept the same wrestling stage name. I love it,
That's great. I didn't know that.
It's true. Yep. And then we've got the movie has an adorable, absolutely adorable baby bear that they call Kiog that is absolutely also a main character.
Good boy, you found me. Help me escape. Come on, Kiog. Hurry.
Like it does things to forward the plot. It's not just around. And every time you see it's like, hey, it's Kiog. I love that baby bear.
And he was a great sidekick.
Totally.
I mean, Kiog the bear is genuinely fun to watch. Maybe the single best part of this film, which also is a large indictment on Clash of the Titans and the shittiness of Bubo the owl, because fuck Bubo forever. And this bear somehow is a million times better than a film that had a massive budget and was trying to make the R2-D2 robot owl of its era.
Kubo is an abomination, but Kiog the bear is one of the best characters of all time. They got a great performance out of this bear. They got like long running scenes. They got him like doing things. They got emotional moments. We'll get into. So Kiog the bear really a standout in this. I don't know what the bear's real name is, but I don't know if I didn't see the bear in the credits, but in the movie they call him Kiog the bear. Now, I will say, I thought some of the music was pretty good in this, actually. They like the main like theme sting that they have was pretty good. like they actually had an orchestra perform it. It's not just like cheap synthesizer stuff. That comes in Ator too.
Hey.
But in this one, they actually had a
wait a
orchestrated
second,
soundtrack.
Doa. I will not have you disparage synthesizer 1980s music on this show.
I mean, I said cheap synthesizer, not expensive synthesizer.
Hawk the Slayer had a banger soundtrack.
That is true, but this was like, there's other fantasy films that just use the cheap synth, fantasy sci-fi and all that. Now this movie does go into the synth world a little bit with its incredible ending song, which we'll get to at some point. It's a banger
with the lady who can't sing.
It's a banger.
Great.
Yeah. But that's kind of where we begin our tale, is a porn director trying to cash in on Conan the Barbarian, using ancient Roman ruins to film an epic fantasy. And so we get a credit sequence with flames on the left side of the screen for really no reason. They're just kind of there.
Also, it just lasts forever. Yeah. It's several minutes of just this fire and a black screen and names.
This is what George Lucas wanted to end with Star Wars. This is what he put everything on the line with the Academy. Putting the credits at the end with Star Wars. But and this is what he's trying to avoid, is the start of Ator, right? But and it also goes from one of the longest title sequences to then one of the longest opening monologues in fantasy film history as well. This had to be like 5 or 6 minutes long. You get the entire history of the land. You hear about this hero named Torin that came up, that but then he lost, and you're like, oh, Torin, he must be our victor then. And then Torin was defeated, and you're like, oh, well, I guess forget Torin then. But don't worry, Monty, because before he went, Torin, and I quote, scattered his seed upon the wind, and by his seed was born, in a very opening of Willow-esque theme, by the way, Mr. Lucas, that may have inspired you, was Ator, son of Torin,
For Torin cast his seed upon the wind, and even in death, to him is born a son.
What I love about this prophecy, Doa, is it's actually the most terrible prophecy of all time, because as you say, if you're writing this film, Doa, or you're writing a prophecy in general, the prophecy is never really about Torin. Is it? Because he was prophesied to come, but then he lost, and the people fell into despair. Yeah. But then the son of Torin is supposed to defeat the spider cult. So why would the people fall into despair if they had heard a prophecy that when he died, his son was then going to free them? Why would they despair? Because they should still have hope. And also, as far as this movie is concerned, why don't they just make him the prophesied hero? Why do we have to go through?
It's like,
what is the purpose of the extra step of having the father be somebody else when we could just skip all the bullshit and go directly to the character being the prophesied one? It adds this additional layer that is completely worthless, because we never see Torin. He doesn't seem to actually fulfill a purpose either in the story or in the prophecy. It's just terrible. I was like, this is the next level of bad writing. His sword is important,
apparently. So maybe his sword is the thing. But yeah, it's kind of like basically if there was a prophecy about Superman, but most of the prophecy was about Superman's regular dad. And it's like, there was this man in Kansas who lived a pretty normal life, but then one day he found Superman and he raised him pretty much like a normal parent would raise him. And then he eventually died of natural causes. And you're like, oh, well, but that's who the prophecy was about.
Well, it's more as if it was about not his dad in Kansas, but it was about Jor-El on Krypton, the guy who died on Krypton. So it's like if a Superman movie started and it was like, and then Jor-El, the greatest man on Krypton, blah 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 blah, but then he died.
Then he just died.
And also, here's a story about Kal-El instead.
So anyway,
you're like, what?
So anyway, cast his seed upon the wind, and who knows what that really
do you
means.
think that is a metaphor for him and the porn prequel that our dear director Joe D'Amato was planning to make at some point
What's
in
your
time?
title for that one?
Or do you think he literally just like jerked it in the breeze and it flew
See, that's what I
around?
was trying to figure out. If this was supposed to be some sort of like weird mythological immaculate conception kind of thing, where like Torrin's seed just flew through the air and like ended up impregnating this lady, or if it was more a metaphor where it's like, yeah, he just went out and he got some before he died, and then normal, and the baby came along like normal, right? So I don't know. They kind of leave it up to interpretation, and I say, you're welcome to take it however you want, which in this case, I think you take it in the most hilarious way possible, which is that he literally just like cast his seed into the wind. I feel like this is like I feel like this could also be part of like, we're watching Severance, while we do all this stuff. I feel like this prophecy could also be like part of like the Keir Egan, prophecies as well, especially the casting seed upon the wind part. Yeah. It reminded me of Severance when I was watching it. But anyway,
That's true.
yeah. So we get the really, really long monologue, and then Ator is born. We see him as a baby, and again, the scene is basically exactly like the first scene of Willow, where the baby's born. He's got the mark, right? He's got like a mark on him that says he's going to be the special person, basically, and then the mom doesn't live very long. But there's like a big earthquake, and there's a lot of animal sounds, but it's mostly elephants. And because did you hear that? It was like some wolves, but it was mostly elephants. Over and over again.
No,
I listened to them. I listened to this with my Turtle Beach headphones, so I heard it really well. But yeah, I heard a lot of elephant sounds. And then a guy says, one of the bad guys says, "The earth trembles like a virgin being drawn to the nuptial bed," which made me think, this person actually speaks this way.
The earth trembles like a virgin being drawn to the nuptial bed. Now the sky is the color of flame, my lord.
Apparently he does.
Has a lot of experience with wedding virgins, I guess, too, and they're trembling.
It's kind of a gross way to talk about an earthquake, isn't it? That's it. I live in LA, so next time that happens, I'm going to turn to my wife and say, "The earth trembles like a virgin being drawn to the nuptial bed." She's going to say, "What is wrong with you?" But so we get a shot too of Dakar, who Monty, I think, loves spiders more than anyone else I've ever seen.
I like how every scene he just has a spider on his head.
He's happy about it. He's got a big smile and a spider on him somewhere. And he doesn't like being interrupted when he's got spiders on him. He's like if we've ever met someone that's like, yeah, tarantulas are the coolest pet. I've got like 15 of them. And you're like, that's not normal. And that's this guy. He's a spider priest too. Oh yeah, the spider empire has ruled for 1,000 years of darkness, by the way. That's another part of the monologue that you need to know.
Lo, the kingdom of the spider shall last 1,000 years, and the people shall suffer 1,000 years, for it is written, and this time shall be known as the age of darkness.
Which isn't really very well reflected because people just seem to be kind of getting along with their lives, and it doesn't seem too bad until the Spider Knights come and try and kill
Things
everybody.
seem okay.
And also, because the Spider Cult knows about the prophecy, Doa, when they realize that the prophecy is happening and Ator is born, instead of, I don't know, pulling a King Herod and just killing all the babies, which would be the logical course of action if you don't want to be later owned by Ator, they just do nothing instead. They look for him but half-heartedly.
They do attack a village, and you do see a soldier chop a baby too, which I thought was a little bit extreme.
That's later.
That's at the beginning. That's when they send out a group right away, because that's how Ator's mom dies. Because the guy who has face paint like the Ultimate Warrior,
you're right.
Another wrestling shout out, Ultimate Warrior kills Ator's mom. And go back and watch. He's got the face paint of Ultimate Warrior, basically. And then we meet Griba, who was also delivering our monologues. We find out too. It's Griba all along.
And Griba takes the Ator baby and then gives him to some other people to raise,
Greba's.
which then leads to awkward semi-incest.
Yes. So Greba is a disgraced spider priest himself, and so he's not out to save the world. He's just out to use Ator as his personal vengeance, basically against the other spider priests that spurned him.
I, Greba, will be avenged through this tiny child.
Which I kind of love that that's the setup, where it's not like the wise, kind mentor. It's just like a jaded guy that got kicked out by the club. And so he's like, well, I'm going to go and fulfill the prophecy and get back at those guys. I do like that. But yeah. So Ator and his stepsister, only he doesn't know they're stepsisters, grow up together. And so the first scene, our very first scene of Ator and Sonia, who's his love interest, are that they think they're brother and sister, and he's like, I know we're related, but I want to marry you. And she's like, oh, I don't know. And he literally just goes like, I'll go ask Dad if it's okay. And her line is, in the movie, her line is, yeah. And that's it.
Why can't we marry?
Ator, we are brother and sister.
I'll talk with our father.
And they're like, so first of all, our protagonist wants to get with his sister. So again, very close to pornography. Got real close.
Especially because she's running around in this buckskin mini skirt,
like everyone does in
that
this
is
movie.
like constantly flashing her panties.
Like everyone does, even Ator in this movie too. You gotta have the leather thong. But yeah, so that's a little bit like, what are you talking about, Step Ator? And help, I'm stuck in the cave.
Save me from the spider.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the spider web. Save me, Step Ator. But they don't know. The thing is usually on that side of things, the step relationship is established early on. In this one, they have no idea and they're just down for it. And the dad's like, so Ator goes to his dad and he's like, I know, and he even says, he's like, I know this isn't really like, culturally acceptable these days, but I really want to marry my sister. And his dad is like, that's great news.
Good news.
And I've got even better news for you. You're adopted.
Ator and Sonia want to marry.
You know.
Yes, I just told him.
You mean he's not my brother?
No, my child, he is not.
And Ator is like,
and he doesn't question
No.
it. They immediately just get married, and the parents are happy for some reason about
because
this.
he was adopted, so it's okay, Monty, right? So none of this is weird. None of this is strange at all. Totally normal that they lived together their whole lives, thinking they were brother and sister, fell in love, became a romantic couple, and then only at the very end found out that they it was not going to be incestuous. That part doesn't matter. Ator has.
Also, they had 100% already been banging.
Seems that way.
Based on the implications
that way.
of the scenes that we have witnessed.
Yeah, seems that way. So interesting way to introduce your protagonist. I'll say that. Bold directing choice, bold writing choice, really there.
Again, porn director. It all clicks once you know these things.
And all this, by the way, this conversation with Ator and Sonia about getting married as siblings, and then the talk with his dad, where it's like, I want to marry my sister, and he's like, that's okay because you're adopted. Surprise. This all happens in a public square, by the way. This all happens in public. This is not like in their house or anything. All the neighbors are like watching this. And so Ator's got a lot of...
And they all come to their wedding,
Yeah, that's
too.
right. So everyone's cool with this. Apparently it wasn't... That practice of marrying siblings wasn't outlawed or frowned upon that long ago, I guess, because everyone seems to be okay with it. So they get married, and then there's a wedding dance, which is really hilarious, because I don't really. Could you really pinpoint what style of dancing we were seeing? I don't know either. I don't know what that was. It was a little bit ballet. It was a little bit interpretive. I don't know. Anyway, there's a wedding dance. But then there's a wedding fight. Monty. Oh, by the way, the bear hasn't been introduced. We know that Ator has a baby bear sidekick named Kiog at this point because he was running around.
Yeah, because in the sister "I want to marry you" scene, he just rocks up with a baby bear and
that's
says,
right.
"Here, I got."
Oh,
this
that's
for
right.
you."
Here, brought you a present.
Oh, what's his name?
Keon.
So that's the origin of Kiog. It was a gift for his sister so he could propose.
But also,
to her.
imagine just being there and a man walks up to you with a baby bear and says, "Here, I got this for you," and not wondering, because my first thing is usually with baby bears there is some potentially very angry mother bear somewhere close by, possibly trying to kill me at that point in time. There's no concern for that.
No.
Also, do bitches just love baby bears
In
or
Ator
something?
world,
Why
they
would
do.
you want?
Yeah. Why not? Right? I mean, when your brother walks up to you, gives you a bear, and asks you to marry him, you just don't ask questions. you just go with it, you know? And Dad's okay with it too. And then he tells your brother that he was adopted the whole time. And you're like, well, now everything is fine. Now there's nothing weird at all about this. So there's a wedding, like I said, and a wedding dance. And then there's a wedding fight because one of the Black Knights, as they're called, the spider guys, goes back and reports to his boss that he found Ator, I guess. But like, how did he know that he was Ator when Ator's like mark has been covered since birth? I'm not sure why exactly, but so the spider guys attack the village.
Destroy them!
They kill everybody, and they kidnap Sonya. So, in a scene that's shot in a very, very specific way to show off Sonya's backside, basically. It's like porn director.
Also, what I love about that is she gets like thrown over the horse by a man who is sitting on a horse, and he one arm picks up a whole ass woman from on top of the horse with the only leverage being his stirrup. And she doesn't fight him, by the way. She seems willing to go, but he literally just bends over with one arm, picks her up, and puts her on the horse, which is just an unfathomable feat of strength. And then we just get a shot up her buckskin miniskirt.
I present to you Sonya's point of view on all this. Your brother just gave you a bear and asked you to marry him. Your dad is okay with it. Your brother is suddenly adopted. Immediate wedding. Weird dancing. Who knows how much drink. And then spider people attack you. You're like, maybe I kind of want to go with the spider people at this point. I can't really blame her. I was surprised at first that she didn't fight it, but I'm like, given the situation, spider people isn't a bad alternative. So, yeah. So I think that's fine. So then Ator meets up with Griba again, who's wearing one of the most incredible hats in the history of cinema. It's a giant metal black goose and a swan.
And we're coming off of Dragon Slayer with incredible snake hats.
Yeah.
So that's saying
animal
something.
hats were really in the 80s. But Monty, get this. Remember that hat because it comes back in a big way in Ator 2. So I'll just leave a teaser for Ator 2, the Blade Master. The hat comes back. Also, I love that they didn't try to age up Griba at all. He just looks the same as he did when he was picking up Ator as a baby. Just like, I guess he just didn't age or something. They don't even try. No.
So then he gets trained. Then we have a training montage because, of course, we do. Duh. And my favorite part about this training montage is that Miles O'Keefe, the actor who plays Ator, is actually just terrible at combat.
But he's super ripped, though.
Remember, this guy. So this guy who is super ripped, he's a bodybuilder. He appears to be a bodybuilder, but you would expect them to cast somebody in a fantasy combat film who could actually fight, because he has to be believable as this powerful person who is going to single-handedly attain victory over the spider cult. But as you watch him move, he is potentially the least graceful ripped guy you have ever seen. The combat throughout the film is incredibly terrible. It is incredibly slow, and it looks like he can not only not throw a punch, but not wield a weapon in any way. So we end up with a training montage where you just think he's going to lose to the first guy he tries to fight because he's fighting an old dude very, very slowly and with no skill whatsoever.
Well,
so Miles O'Keefe is just he's a bad actor and he's bad at combat. So why would you cast him in this film?
I don't know. Maybe the thing is Miles O'Keefe apparently played football until he was injured and then switched to psychology. So he has a degree in psychology and he worked as a counselor in a prison before starting acting, actually. So maybe he used his psychology powers to talk his way in to the movie industry.
He hypnotized
and
them.
the thing is, yeah, maybe. I think maybe that's possible. But the thing, he went on to have like a pretty long career, actually, right? He ended up doing movies all the way up until 2010 was his last acting role. So, props to Miles O'Keefe. He turned it into a successful career. And it all, I don't know if it started with Ator, but it's probably one of the earlier roles he did. But yeah, and he's fun. It's just the way his facial expressions, the way he really goes all out as far as like trying to react to things, which I love. I love the Greba training scene where Greba just randomly kicks him in the stomach and he just looks so surprised and hurt. He's just like, why would you do that to me? We were talking, you just kicked me in the stomach.
Rule number 1 when you fight. Keep the legs apart, with the equilibrium of the body distributed evenly.
Like this?
Rule number 2, surprise.
So it's, props to Miles O'Keefe. I love watching him work as Ator. Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I'm not exaggerating here.
Awful.
We have different definitions.
The thing
of
he
awful.
needed to be good at was fighting, and these fight sequences in this film are actually the worst I have ever seen in any movie.
Sure,
ever.
but that's the choreography. Is that Miles O'Keefe? Think about his opponent.
It's the skill. It's Miles O'Keefe's skill at executing the moves, dude. He could do them not in slow motion. He looks awkward when he's doing it. He looks like it's his first time ever touching any kind of sword.
That's very accurate to the character. Because again, Ator.
But he has to be intimidating, Noah. He has to be a natural. That's not how this works.
He has to be likable. We're supposed to like Ator. Yes.
Noah, he has to win the fight.
He does.
So he has to be good at some point in time at fighting. He is never good in this movie, even by the end at
I've got
fighting.
a spoiler alert for you. He does win the fights in the end. So apparently he was good enough, wasn't he? He was good enough. That's all Greba needed him to be. Was good enough. But one of my favorite things is that the weapon that they give him, the Sword of Torin, is a gold-colored katana. And I'm like, where does this come from? We're in sort of like, it's kind of a caveman sort of barbarian-esque sort of quasi-European sort of vibe to it all. It's not really, you can't really pinpoint any one culture really for it, except that it occurs largely within Roman ruins. But his sword, the Sword of Torin, is a golden katana, which is just very 80s, but also another one of the just incredibly epic things about this film. So they're training, and then as they're training, suddenly, Monty, a damsel in distress. That's right, a blonde running from some thuggish-looking cave dudes, perhaps dwelling in caves, and Ator decides to dive off of a waterfall to save her, and they fight, and he saves her, and then she says, "I don't use names." Ator really struck out hard there, and then rides away.
What's your name?
I don't use names. Ha!
And then later gives Ator up. He gets captured by an all-female clan of kind of Amazons or whatever, who would like to use Ator to sire their next leader, which again, very close to pornography. We were so close, right? You can tell the director.
And also,
setups.
no doubt inspired the Futurama Death by Snoo Snoo episode with the Amazons.
I mean, the thing is like we saw this in heavy metal. You see, it's a popular cliche in like this barbarian fantasy kind of stuff where it's like, oh, the powerful guy is captured sort of, but it's like, oh, he must love make his way out of this situation. But
what I like about it is that the Amazons have to fight each other to then see who gets to bang him before he dies. And so we have yet another incredibly terrible fight scene where these women who cannot fight are attempting to fight each other. And of course, one of them wins, who then immediately frees him instead of having sex with him and then getting him killed because she just likes him.
Well, no, it makes sense. See, Rune, who is the blonde Amazonian kind of fighter or whatever, she's kind of the Han Solo of this movie, where she's just in it for the loot initially, right? She's kind of a scoundrel, but she gets Ator captured. She's supposed to hook up with him. Ator, again, we were so close, but then Ator is like, no, I have to stay true to my wife because she was captured by spider people, and she's also my sister, but we'll not talk about that part. And I have to get her back. And Sonya's like, you're going to the spider castle? All right, that sounds good. There's a lot of loot in the spider castle. They got a lot of gold, so I'll go with you. And so she just joins up for the loot, you know?
Gold. So much gold and silver and jewels shut up in the temple of the spider. It could be ours without any difficulty. That's my idea.
So I appreciate that. I like that, you know, you've got she lets Ator go because he is her vehicle to loot, you know? So that's the motivation there, you know? And on the way out, she hits 3 people with a gong, which is probably doesn't work very well, but it knocks them over, and it's really hilarious. The fight scenes in this. Oh, and also, Kiog the bear is also running around for most of this. He causes a distraction. You know, so again, it's Deus Ex Kiog the bear. But we're always happy to see him, of course. Yeah. and then, do you remember what happens next, Monty?
The witch captures him?
Yes, Rune chases a deer into a cave. The deer suddenly disappears because the film reel was changed. And then they meet Cher. And Cher is just randomly out there in a cave, and she's an evil sorceress and wants to seduce Ator because who doesn't, right? And Ator just, you know, accepts a drink from her immediately, which maybe you shouldn't accept drinks from spooky Chers in caves, but he does. And yeah, I mean, I feel I could just go through and tell the entire story, but I want to leave you chances to talk too, though. What do you have to say about this? What's
so funny about this sequence is that he gets captured, and then she shows him Sonia, his wife, lounging and being at ease with the spider priest, and tells him that she's changed sides and she loves the spider priest now. Now, if I was an evil witch, I would just show him them banging and make him a cuck. But because this can't actually be porn, we just have to have her sitting next to him,
or just show that she's
but
dead.
I feel like it wasn't the most,
you know, just be like, yeah, she's
yeah,
just out of the picture now. You know, there's a lot of better ways than just be like, oh yeah, she's over there happy with spiders now.
But he does eventually escape. This is probably the most pointless scene in the movie because it advances absolutely nothing. And also is just lies and fake drama about Sonia. So it's completely useless, this entire sequence. But then they have to go and retrieve a mirror shield.
Yeah. Well, first we have to resolve the Cher subplot, right? I think the witch's name is what? Aldune? Let me look. It's Indune.
No clue.
Indune, the witch. And so Indune keeps a covered thing, like it's something covered by these drapes. And Ator comes in, and he touches. She says, "Don't touch the drapes." And I'm like, "That's what my grandma said. When we went to her house when I was a kid. What a coincidence." And so they're like.
Then he touches the drapes.
No, he doesn't actually, because Kiog the bear lures Indune over to the drapes, and then remember Rune
That's right.
shoots him with an arrow. and the drapes fall away, and turns out it's a mirror, and turns out in Dune, if she looks into the mirror, she becomes like this really randomly disfigured person, and then she's like, I'll get you, Ator, I'll get my vengeance. And I'm thinking,
why does she keep that mirror around?
Yeah, or at least if she has to, if it's some sort of like spell or curse that she has to have it around, at least turn it towards the wall, right? Why was it in such an obvious place to cause her great pain? I don't know. So they escape.
Also, never explained what it does besides make her really ugly.
This plot makes no sense. It doesn't make all sorts of sense like the rest of the movie. This makes no sense. And then they go through the land of the dead, which is just kind of another scene that happens. And they run through some fog, and some other guys stumble through the fog behind them, and there is no fight. They just run, and they're chased, and then that's it. And then the relationship between Rune and Ator starts to get a little bit snippy, where she's like, we must go through the land of the dead, and he's like, well, if we gotta go.
It's too still.
Now we must pass through the land of the walking dead.
Well, if we gotta go.
It's like, wow, Ator, kind of like, tone it down, man. Are you into going and rescuing Sonya or what? You know? Maybe I had a hard time with Dune.
And then the mirror shield. Can we talk about the mirror shield?
No, not
quest?
yet. Because first we have to talk about the
God.
tavern scene, Monty. That's right. The tavern scene. So they randomly end up in a tavern, in a cave tavern, and Rune is just out of the blue. She's like, I'm gonna steal that person's money, and so she causes a scene, steals someone's money, just starts killing people randomly, and Ator is just sitting there like.
By the way, when we talk about stealing somebody's money, this isn't like a thief thing. Like literally, just walks up to somebody and grabs their money, and then starts murdering.
It's
everybody.
a brothel, and she just there's like a woman running the brothel. And so she just walks up and just says some stuff to cause an argument, and then just takes her money. And the entire time Ator is just sitting there like, yeah, I'm okay with a little bit of random, murdering and robbery, apparently. And then he just leaves him there,
What's the hurry?
But then he sees Griba, and now we should go back and say that Ator was lured into Indune's cave by a vision of Sonya that he just followed randomly. He walks out of the tavern. He randomly sees Griba, who he hasn't seen in years, and decides to just follow him. Like, at this point, Ator should know better than to just follow visions of people he knows. But it turns out it really is Griba. And so Griba says some great lines like, go to the Volcano of Shadows and find the Shield of Mordor. Totally original name. And so Griba's just there to deliver epic fantasy lines, basically. The Volcano of Shadows. How epic, how hardcore is that, right?
Volcano's normally bright, so it's confusing why it would be the Volcano
That's
of
why
Shadows.
it's hardcore. Yeah, and then he delivers great philosophical lines like, or Ator does, like a man's fate is only revealed to him halfway through his life.
A man's fate is only revealed to him when he's halfway through his life. If it were revealed sooner, it would only seem an illusion.
And so, what does that mean exactly? If you're like your fate is revealed at 10, you're like, uh-oh.
Also, especially for him, when his fate was revealed literally 1,000 years before he was born, from the prophecy at the beginning of the movie.
That's true, yeah. So he would have just died immediately then, if his fate was revealed that quickly. So, I don't know. There's some weird philosophy going on in here. But, so they end up in a volcano, and they have to go steal the shield, right? The Shield of Mordor, which is surrounded by what appear to be like blacksmiths, but they're all blind. And they just love to randomly swing weapons around when you're walking through there. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, instead of just killing these people that want to kill them, while they don't know where they are, because they rub themselves with the magic plant, because apparently the blacksmiths can smell them. Now, not hear them.
Right? Not hear them.
Smell them.
Yeah.
So they rub themselves, and instead of, if I was there and these people wanted to kill me, and I was invisible to them because they couldn't smell me, I would just kill them because later on they attack them anyway. So you could have just skipped that part and just
the way I
them
think
all.
of it is that, you know, we're in a fantasy historical period here where I'm guessing deodorant had not been invented yet. So body odor really was a big giveaway when you're trying to sneak around. So your blind blacksmiths, maybe they do operate more on scent than anything in the ancient cave dweller days, you know, the ancient barbarian days. So it seemed pretty realistic to me, I guess. But I would just worry that they'd hit each other with the weapons they just swing around randomly, you know. But yeah, so he goes down and finds a shield, but he has to fight a shadow first, which is kind of great.
And then the mirror shield. And then he gets the
yes,
mirror
he finally
shield,
gets it.
Which looks, it looks like it's just a mirror, like an actual circle cut out of a mirror that has been 80s bedazzled along the edges, looking like the cheapest prop of all time, which is very, very impressive. It has no heft to it. It doesn't look like a weight. It literally looks like a pane of glass with rhinestones all around the outside.
Yeah, it's fantasy, man. It's a fantasy mirror shield. So they got to kill their way out of there, of course. You know, Rune and Ator fight about Rune's love of treasure, and then they finally make it to the Spider Palace, and we have our big showdown. Oh,
Wait.
go ahead.
Wait, before we get there, the Spider Palace, as Doa has mentioned, has been shown throughout the film because the Black Knights literally just stand around an amphitheater for the entire movie doing almost nothing. So we keep seeing this ruined amphitheater, and all they do is stand there posing in their full armor.
Yep, they do. They just stand there, and then if one of them approaches Dakar, he's like, "Can't you see I'm playing with my spiders? Stay away." You know, and then so they're all there when they get there, and they have to fight their way in.
And they've just put a giant brazier in the middle with a huge roaring bonfire in it in the middle of the amphitheater. And now, see, there's a lot of parallels to this film to Dragon Slayer, which is the last one we did, because you think, oh, well, in Dragon Slayer, there was that really cool dragon that was created by Industrial Light and Magic. And Dragon Slayer is, in fact, a slightly older movie than this one. So I wonder, the ancient one is this spider. I really wonder what kind of cool effects they're going to have for us with this giant spider god that lives in the temple.
Yeah, but it's a puppet. It's a it's a giant. It's I don't even know if it's a whole spider puppet. I think it was just a bunch of legs.
Not. It's like a spider head and like three or four legs that they just wave around.
Yeah, and they they have the joints where they're supposed to be in spider.
It doesn't move, by the way. Like the body doesn't move. They hide it in a tunnel. So the two techniques that they use is they hide the body so you can only see the head, which just looks like a furry lump sticking out, and then they wave around some floppy like spider legs, and the other one is of course the POV of the spider. So they give you spider POV while Ator is shining the light from the sun in its eyes, and then you see the spider legs like trying to attack Ator in a terrible sequence that is an enormous letdown.
Great. You just want to see Miles O'Keefe flail away at a bunch of puppet spider legs with a golden katana. This is the scene for you. We do have to mention the end of Dakar though, right before this, right? Dakar like decides to fight Ator, and he has like a blanket over the shield, and he just takes it away, and Dakar just sees himself in the mirror and explodes. Like literally explodes. And you're like, that was it? apparently the way to just kill all the villains in this world are just show them their reflection, because it worked for in Dune, and now it works for Dakar. And Dune didn't. She just turned ugly and disfigured. Dakar literally just blew up, and then.
And the Greba twist as well, where he comes into the Ancient One's cave and he says, "I've been playing you, Ator. I just needed you to kill Dakar so I could once again be the Spider Priest." And then he just gets stuck in a web.
I feel like Greba really didn't think this all through, because the whole time he was fulfilling a prophecy that literally just said Ator was going to take down the Spider Empire. And it's like, bro, did you think if you help this prophecy happen and you end up on the Spider Empire side at the end, that it's going to end well for you? So Greba did not think this one through all the way. He was not really paying attention to the end of the prophecy, because Ator just kicks him into the web and that's it. And then we have the big puppet fight, and he kind of just slowly walks up and kills it. It's not really much of a fight. Like I said, just kind of arms flailing, and then he stabs it, and then some Kool-Aid comes out. And then that's it, you know? Oh, and Rune dies too, because Ator left her alone with a bunch of thugs and they killed her. Yeah. But it's all good in the end, Monty, because Ator and Sonya are back together again. The brother and sister and husband and wife have reunited, and they run off into the grassy fields to a synthesizer love song and a freeze frame in classic 1980s end fashion with big smiles on their faces. And you're like, wow, I guess the real loot, the real treasure was the friends we made along the way.
Now that I found you, please stay tonight.
The real treasure was the step-sibling incest that this film was designed around.
But they didn't know it was a step thing at first. Just straight up incest. And
it was straight up incest,
but
it was okay because their parents were like, "Oh, even though we raised you as siblings your entire lives from the time you were babies, you can get married. It's not wrong."
Yeah.
And we're supposed to feel good about this.
We are.
At the end, Noah, I guess. And also, that song is hilarious because the woman who is singing it can't hit the right notes. So it's actually just a terribly performed song.
It's like, it is really the cherry on top of this whole thing. It is just the greatest way to end this movie. I lost it when that song came on. It was incredible. And just because you're listening to the song, it's the freeze frame. You're thinking back on this movie and you're like, man, everybody around Ator and Rune, or Ator and Sonya, just died. Rune died, Greba died. The only person who is close to Ator and Sonya that made it through this whole movie is, guess who, Monty? Kiog the bear. That's right. The bear lives. He's still just as adorable as ever, and he's running off with them.
He's gambling through the fields.
That's right. Yeah. So this movie is just a feel-good tour de force, really, because in the end, the young lovers get back together. The adorable baby bear is there too, and he's fine, and everyone else is dead, but they're okay. And the Spider Empire is apparently, conquered as well, but that's kind of like very much to the side of the real plot, which is the brother-sister relationship. The end. Wow. I mean, what a movie, right?
It's very funny, and all of this is packed into a pretty tight hour and a half.
It moves along.
So what I will say about this film is that it moves along, so it's pretty consistently funny, and even the unnecessary scenes, which, I mean, this movie really should be an hour long if you cut out all of the witch garbage and Land of the Dead
Why would you
garbage
want to,
and all the extraneous scenes that you don't need of the spider priest just petting spiders with a tarantula on his head.
It's not exaggerating either.
There's a lot of fluff. Yeah. There's a lot of fluff, but the fluff itself is so weird, and the fluff, the fluff, while significant, the bloat is significant. It's still like there's a lot of different kinds of bloat. So it moves from bloat to bloat very quickly. And so you don't get stuck in something that is horrendously boring. And at least each new piece of bloat is uniquely funny.
Yeah.
and it's a pretty fun watch.
It's like every
have a drink.
It's like every bad movie every great bad movie needs to be in. This isn't just a so bad it's good movie. This is a so bad it's excellent movie, because every scene is just more ridiculous than the last. Just when you think it can't get any crazier or weirder, just something weirder happens, or the characters just do something so inexplicably bonkers. You're just like, what is going on in this movie? It's like Star Wars Holiday Special-esque in that every scene is just even weirder than the one that came before it. And you were just like, how in the world did this get made? And the great news is that there's 2 sequels to this. So we get...
Have you seen the third
I haven't
movie?
Actually. I haven't seen the third movie, so
Okay.
I'm very excited about
That'll
that.
be fun when we get there.
I have not seen the third one, so I'm glad we can experience that together at least. But yeah, this is just, again, like, this is one of the ones I'd seen before we decided to do our 1980s watch through, and it's been a favorite for a long time for all these reasons. It's just completely ridiculous, but it's done with such earnest, that I feel like while it doesn't look like people are trying, you can tell people really tried, and it ended up like this, which is just magnificent, It's just so fun. And like I said, I think there's such a great amount of like genuine heart to something like this, and even though you can recognize it for all its like badness, because it is a very bad film, it's just so fun and enjoyable that I feel like it succeeds as a piece of entertainment, as a piece of entertaining media. It absolutely succeeds, just not in the way at all that the creator intended, which is fine.
Yeah. So if you have an enjoyment of The Room or these other movies, I think you will have a good time watching Ator the Fighting Eagle. And you don't even have to watch it because you probably enjoyed all the clips and our commentary on it. Not necessary to watch, but can be. Show it to your
still
friends.
Watch it. Yeah, I mean, that's the real pleasure of these kind of movies, is watching them with other people after you've already seen it. It's the real joy is inflicting it on others,
So yeah, that'll do it for Ator. We will be back to talk about Severance and the conclusion of Severance season 2 next week. So you can look forward to that. And Andor season 2 right around the corner.
That'll be good.
Plus
hopefully.
the continuation of our fantasy movies with actually some good ones. Sorceress, Beastmaster, Conan the Barbarian, Dark Crystal, all of these, Last Unicorn, all of these
Ator
coming
2.
up. 1982 was a big year for actual good fantasy films.
It'll be a nice change of pace.
And also
it'll be a
Ator.
nice change of pace, but I'm looking forward to getting back to Ator and back to that world again.
All right, we'll see you next week for Severance season 2. Till then.